I am the prince of a wealthy family circle. But I refused to inherit the family business and chose to leave for love. In the end, reality slapped me hard in the face. Later, in order to completely get rid of my crazy, obsessive girlfriend, I decided to stop hiding my identity as a second-generation rich heir, and agreed to the arranged marriage set up by my family. From then on, I was no longer a simp, but the underground emperor that everyone feared. Chapter 1. Dad, Mom, I agreed to come home and get married. My tone was firm yet calm, making the two voices on the other end of the call sound even more elated. That's wonderful, George. You've finally come around. You are the sole heir of the Wong Corporation. If it weren't for your insistence on spending a few more years gaining experience outside, you would have been married and taken over the family business long ago. Your father and I have already found a suitable match for you. We've just been waiting for you to say the word. Hearing the relief and joy in their voices, I recalled how I had repeatedly refused my parents' matchmaking in the past. A sense of guilt surfaced in my heart, lowering my gaze. My tone softened involuntarily. I'll go along with your arrangements, my mother said excitedly. Great. How about setting the wedding for January 19th? When will you come back? Do you want to meet your fiancée in advance? I can arrange for you two to meet soon. Her name is. Her incessant chatter gave me a headache. The reason I made this call was simply to end everything here as soon as possible and return home. As for when the wedding would be or whom I was marrying, I couldn't care less. It didn't interest me at all. So before she could finish, I interrupted her. I just want to return to the Wong family and share your burdens. The marriage is merely a formality. No need to meet her. Just go ahead and arrange the wedding. I'll be back the day before. As soon as I finished speaking, the bedroom door was pushed open from the outside. Hearing the movement, I instinctively turned my head and saw Willow walking in with furrowed brows. A wedding? What wedding? She asked, facing her puzzled expression. I calmly ended the call, my face unchanging, and found an excuse effortlessly. A friend is getting married. They asked me to be the best man, I said. Hearing this, the tension on Willow's face eased, and she nodded slightly. All right then, but I've been quite busy lately, so I might not be able to go with you. No problem. I can go by myself, I replied. Seeing how readily I agreed, Willow didn't ask any further. She casually placed her bag on the sofa and turned into the bathroom. Moments later, the sound of running water filled the room. Her phone, still in her bag, vibrated a few times with incoming notifications. Hearing the repeated buzzing, I hesitated for a moment before picking it up. When I unlocked it, a message from a contact named Makoto popped up on the screen. Do you still remember what we talked about back then? Are you seriously thinking about marrying me? Seeing that last sentence, a sharp pain shot through my chest. My fingers froze for a moment before I scrolled up slightly. Soon, a message Willow had sent just a few minutes ago appeared before my eyes. Makoto, in 33 days, it'll be your 28th birthday. Do you remember what you promised me back then? I placed the phone back into her bag and leaned back on the sofa. My mind flooded with a whirlwind of memories. I am the only son of the Wong family, the heir to the Wong Corporation in City A. My parents were always preoccupied with business affairs, so I was raised overseas by my aunt and rarely appeared in public. When I turned 18, my aunt returned home to get married, and I followed her back to enroll at Yunda University. To better enjoy my college life and for my own safety, I never disclosed my identity to anyone. During my senior year, at the university's welcome gala, I helped my roommate by playing an accompaniment on stage. After finishing the piece, I picked up my instrument and stepped off the stage. When I lowered my head, I saw Willow standing at the entrance, dressed in a white chiffon dress, holding a bouquet of flowers. Her eyes sparkled as she looked at me, smiling. Can I have your contact info? She asked. I've always had a thing for good looks, so I agreed without hesitation. From then on, we kept in touch every day and frequently, coincidentally, ran into each other. 3 months after we met, Willow confessed her feelings to me. At that time, I was young, naive, and experiencing love for the first time. It was love at first sight, and I had no reason to refuse. We got together, and from 21 to 28, we spent 7 years as a couple. For 7 years, Willow was gentle and obedient to me in every way. As I grew older, my family started urging me to return and fulfill my duty of an arranged marriage. After rejecting them multiple times, I once tested the waters and asked Willow if she would be willing to marry me. But every time I brought up the topic of marriage, Willow would avoid it like the plague, changing the subject instantly. At first, I thought she simply wasn't ready, but as it happened more frequently, I realized something was wrong. Until, one night, during a drunken gathering, I accidentally overheard the truth. I was never the one in Willow's heart. She had always loved her childhood friend, Makoto. Unfortunately for her, Makoto only saw her as a friend. The only reason Willow approached me in the first place was that on the night we met, Makoto had gotten together with someone else, and I, playing the piano on stage, reminded her of him, if only just a little. To soothe her heartbreak and to spite Makoto, she chose me. Over the years, Makoto had been in and out of dozens of relationships. Every time she heard he had broken up, Willow thought about going to him, but before she could, he would already be dating someone new. The disappointment in her heart grew heavier each time, and when she turned back to look at me, devoted, clueless, and deeply in love with her, she couldn't bring herself to leave. And so, time passed. 7 years came and went. They never broke up. Yet Willow never gave up waiting for Makoto to change his mind. She was still waiting for a drunken promise Makoto had once made to her in their youth. Willow, if we're both still single when I turn 28, let's just settle for each other. How about that? So, every year, she would remind him, and this year, she had finally waited long enough. Makoto was about to turn 28. Looking at the messages on her phone, I chuckled. 33 days from now, Makoto would turn 28. And that would also be the day I had chosen to break up and go home for my arranged marriage. Chapter 2. I gazed silently out the window at the flickering neon lights, absent-mindedly rubbing my wrist. Behind me, the sound of the door opening broke the quiet. Willow walked over, towel drying her hair before sitting down beside me. I lowered my hand and said indifferently, "Your phone rang a few times just now." Hearing this, Willow quickly wiped her hands dry and reached into her bag for her phone, scrolling through it for a long time. Watching her concentrated expression, I couldn't help but ask, "You're so focused, whose message is it?" My tone was relaxed, casual, but unlike her usual composure. Willow stood up immediately. "It's something from work. I need to take care of it. You should sleep first," she said. Seeing the guarded look in her eyes, the way she so effortlessly told a lie, a flicker of self-mockery passed through my gaze. I hummed in response, watching as she disappeared into the study. Then, I got up, turned off the lights, and lay back down. I wasn't sure how much time had passed, but in the pitch-black room, I heard the faintest sound of footsteps. A phone, its screen glowing dimly, was placed on the bedside table. A moment later, a hand gently wrapped around my waist, and then, silence. It wasn't until the steady rhythm of her breathing reached my ears that I opened my eyes again. I reached out and took her phone, unlocking it once more. On the screen, the chat interface now contained just a few new words, "Never forgotten." A simple phrase, yet I could vividly imagine the scene of her typing it. She probably pursed her lips slightly, staring at the screen intently, carefully typing out a long message before deleting it, hesitating over every word, afraid that her feelings would be too obvious, afraid that her feelings wouldn't be obvious enough. This kind of meticulous caution, she only ever showed it when it came to Makoto. The corners of my mouth lifted in a bitter smile. After staring at those few words for another moment, I tapped on Willow's social media profile. Her cover photo was completely black, but when I looked closer, I noticed a small line of text at the very bottom. "If you never forget, fate will answer." Back when we first got together, I had noticed this little detail and asked her what it meant. She had casually brushed me off, saying she had randomly found the image online and hadn't thought much about it. Looking at it now, how could she have not noticed? She had been careful and deliberate all along, holding on to a promise made for the age of 28, waiting for Makoto to fulfill it. Her heart had never wavered, her devotion had never faltered. I lay there with my eyes closed, unable to sleep the entire night. By the time morning arrived, I heard the rustling sounds of movement beside me. I opened my eyes as if by instinct. "Come home early today," I said. Willow zipped up her dress, turned to look at me with confusion, and asked, "Why? Is something happening?" After a long pause, I spoke again, my voice soft. "It's your birthday today. Did you forget?" Willow's body stiffened slightly before she nodded. For the past month and a half, her mind had been preoccupied with Makoto and their 28-year-old agreement. She had been so caught up in it that she had forgotten everything else, including her own birthday. Thinking back to the last 2 months, how I had painstakingly prepared a surprise for her, how all my efforts had gone to waste, I felt a complicated mix of emotions. But Willow didn't notice the shift in my expression. She simply said, "You don't have to go overboard. Just keep it simple. No need to make it extravagant like before." Every year, I was the one who planned her birthday celebrations. I would put in all my effort just to make her happy, but she had never cared about any of it. Hearing her words, my voice carried a hint of self-mockery. "The party has already been arranged. Everyone has agreed to come. It can't be cancelled now." 3 months ago, I had started preparing this birthday celebration for her. 3 months ago, I still didn't know that she had someone else in her heart. 3 months ago, I still believed that we were each other's one and only. If I had known, I never would have planned it. Willow remained silent for a long moment before picking up her phone and leaving the bedroom. Just before she turned away, I caught a glimpse of the faint furrow between her brows. Lowering my head, I murmured softly. I wasn't sure if I was explaining myself to Willow or reminding myself, "Never again." I would never prepare another birthday for her again. Chapter 3. When I arrived at the office, the first thing I did was head to my supervisor's office to submit my resignation. By the time I walked back out, resignation letter in hand, the entire office was in an uproar. "George, you're leaving. Just like that. No notice. No warning. Did you already find another job? Making such a decisive move. Don't tell me you're finally going back to inherit your billions." Hearing their concern, I set my things down and chuckled lightly. "I'm going back to get married," I said. Understanding dawned on my colleagues, and they all nodded knowingly. Meanwhile, Shen Yochu, one of the co-workers I was particularly close with, leaned in with a curious expression. "Wait, George, are you telling me that your girlfriend finally agreed to marry you? I thought no matter how many hints you dropped, she always dodged the topic." I had no interest in explaining further, so I smoothly changed the subject. "Thank you all for taking care of me over the years. Let's have a farewell dinner later, my treat." That evening, I had dinner with 4 or 5 colleagues, chatting over food for nearly 2 hours. By the time I arrived at the hotel, it was already 8 o'clock. I hurried to the private room and was just about to push open the door when I heard a conversation inside that made my hand pause midair. A woman's voice. It was one of Willow's close friends. "It's freezing outside. Who did Willow go out to pick up?" Another voice responded. "Who else? Makoto." Of course, I was standing close by just now. I heard everything. Makoto told her he was coming back today, and she immediately ran off to meet him. Seriously? The first voice was filled with surprise. She must be over the moon. Today's her 28th birthday, and in just over a month, Makoto will be 28 too. He's coming back now. Does that mean he's actually going to keep his promise? I heard Makoto just broke up again. So yeah, chances are high. No way. If he really came back for her, then what about George? We've been keeping this from him for 7 years. He doesn't even know who Makoto is, and he's been hopelessly in love with Willow this whole time. The other person scoffed. What can we do? Willow has been head over heels for Makoto since the beginning. If Makoto agrees to the promise, George is 100% getting dumped. Just bad luck for him. At least he doesn't have much of a background. If they break up, he'll be easy to deal with. Yeah, George has been good to all of us, and especially to Willow, but we're her friends. Of course, we have to take her side. When the time comes, we'll help talk to George, persuade him to let go, and make sure they part on good terms. I listened quietly for a long time without moving. Perhaps because I had already decided to leave, I no longer felt the same crushing pain as I had half a month ago. Instead, I found it almost amusing. Willow wanted to break up with me, and she even needed her friends to help handle me. 7 years. What kind of joke of a relationship had I been in all this time? Too bad for them. There wouldn't be a dramatic scene of me getting dumped, because this time, I was leaving first. Just then, a few waiters arrived, pushing carts full of drinks past me. I quickly stepped back to make way. The door swung open. Instantly, the conversation inside came to an abrupt halt. As if nothing had happened, I smiled as I walked in and greeted everyone. After exchanging a few pleasantries, the door opened again. Willow walked in, bringing along a man I had never seen before. I took in his appearance, my gaze calm and unreadable. His figure bore a faint resemblance to mine, perhaps 3 or 4 points of similarity. Willow led him around the room, introducing him to everyone. Finally, she stopped in front of me. "This is my childhood friend, Makoto," she said. Makoto extended his hand confidently, as if everything was perfectly normal. I looked at him, then reached out and shook his hand. Our hands met briefly, firm but emotionless. Willow hesitated for a moment before continuing. "And this is my ordinary friend, George." She had already braced herself for me to lose my temper, but things didn't unfold the way she had expected. I showed no reaction at all. I simply raised my head and met Makoto's eyes with a long, unreadable gaze before withdrawing my hand. Then I took 2 steps back, putting some distance between us. A polite, appropriate smile appeared on my lips. "Nice to meet you, Mr. Ito," I said smoothly. "I'm Willow's ordinary friend." Chapter 4. After the introductions, the private room became lively once again. Makoto was naturally sociable, chatting easily with everyone as he moved around the room, toasting one group after another. Since it was Willow's birthday, many of the guests had brought their girlfriends. Yet, Makoto paid no mind to them, pulling the guys into drinking games while leaving the women on the sidelines. At one point, he was holding a deck of cards and couldn't free his hands, so someone had to feed him a piece of watermelon. Without hesitation, Willow used her own fork to pick up a piece and held it up to his lips. Makoto accepted it without a second thought, turning slightly to take a few bites. Then, without the slightest pause, he grabbed Willow's glass and drank half of her red wine. A deep red lipstick mark was left on the rim of the transparent glass, stark and obvious. Whether he hadn't noticed or simply didn't care, Makoto drank right from that exact spot. Willow, too, acted as though nothing had happened. Sitting several meters away, I quietly observed her as she lifted the same glass to her lips again. By the end of the night, she was already drunk. Still, no birthday celebration was complete without the final tradition. As the guests sang the birthday song, they urged her to stand up and blow out the candles. The private room fell into a rare moment of silence. I got up and personally pushed the cake toward her, lighting the candles one by one. The large 28 flickered in the dim room. Willow rubbed her temples as if trying to clear her head from the drunken haze. Her unfocused gaze swept across the room before she suddenly raised a single finger. "This year, I don't want to make a wish," she murmured. "I want to ask a question instead." As she spoke, her raised finger slowly curled, pointing directly at Makoto. Even through her dazed expression, her burning gaze remained locked onto him. "Makoto," she asked, her voice unsteady yet unwavering, "you're about to turn 28 too. I just want to ask, do you have a girlfriend right now?" The room fell into stunned silence. All eyes darted between the two of them, waiting for Makoto's response. Makoto hesitated briefly, then replied, "Right now, no." A brief stillness followed. Then, somewhere in the room, someone let out an excited "wow." And just like that, the private room erupted into chaos. A few of Willow's drunk friends jumped up, swaying as they pushed her playfully, singing and cheering. Amidst the drunken revelry, I remained motionless, sitting quietly in my seat, calm, composed, playing my role as the oblivious, ordinary friend. The celebration continued late into the night, finally winding down past midnight. Once the guests had left, I helped Willow into the car. She was still lost in her happiness, leaning against my shoulder as she mumbled one confession after another. "Makoto, don't go. Stay with me, okay? Why is it that they all get to have you, but I don't? Makoto, Makoto, do you even know how much I love you? I've been waiting for you for so many years, every single day. I've been waiting for you, Makoto." The young female driver in the front seat overheard everything. She couldn't help but giggle to herself. As we reached our destination, she glanced at me, amused. "Makoto, your girlfriend really loves you," she teased. I gave her a polite smile and replied lightly, "She does love Makoto, but I'm not Makoto." The next morning, Willow woke up groggy from her hangover. When she remembered what had happened the night before, she immediately grabbed my arm in a panic. "George, I was forced to drink a lot last night as soon as I arrived. I might have said a lot of nonsense, but it was just drunken talk. Don't take it to heart, okay?" I hadn't expected her to actually remember, nor had I expected her to come up with such a clumsy excuse, but I remained calm and rational, playing along with her charade. I nodded slightly. "It's fine, I understand." For some reason, Willow felt uneasy looking at my calm, expressionless face. Her mind flashed back to my reaction the previous night, when she had introduced me to Makoto as her ordinary friend. I hadn't shown the slightest anger or resistance. Something felt off. She quickly changed the subject. "Yesterday, I got so caught up with everyone that I completely forgot about you." "George, are you mad? Let's go on a date tonight." "Okay," I replied. "I'm not mad. I just have something to do this afternoon. I won't be able to make it." Seeing how decisively I turned her down, Willow became even more insistent. She was determined to make it up to me. I had no choice but to agree. That evening, just as I was about to head out, my phone buzzed with a message from Shinyochu. "George, you didn't tell your girlfriend you resigned. She just came by looking for you. She seemed really upset." I hadn't even finished reading the message when Willow's name appeared on my screen. Her call. The screen blinked, the incoming call notification flashing like a warning sign. For a brief moment, I hesitated. Then, I pressed the answer button. Willow's angry voice came through immediately. "Your coworker just told me you resigned. You're leaving to get married." Chapter 5. I was still trying to come up with an excuse when Willow continued scolding me. "I already told you, I have no plans to get married right now," she snapped. So she thought I was trying to pressure her into marriage. No wonder she was so worked up. Realizing this, I quickly adjusted my approach and patiently explained. "I was just joking around with my coworkers. They must have taken it too seriously. I resigned because I've been feeling a little exhausted lately. I just wanted some time to rest." The irritation in her voice finally began to subside. "Don't joke about things like that again," she muttered in frustration. I agreed softly, and then she asked where I was, offering to come find me. I was about to give her my location when I heard it, a faint, almost imperceptible chuckle in the background. It sounded exactly like Makoto. Last night, they had exchanged contact information, and just moments ago, I had seen his latest social media post, a selfie taken inside a car. So they were together. The words that had been sitting on the tip of my tongue transformed into something else. "No need," I said. The call ended quickly. Staring at the darkened screen, I let out a quiet, self-mocking laugh. If she had truly wanted to come, Why would she have hung up so fast? She was just going through the motions, pretending to ask, and yet, for a second, I had almost believed her. Shaking my head at my own foolishness, I flagged down a taxi and headed for the restaurant. The moment I arrived, a waiter greeted me and led me straight to the rooftop dining area. I pushed open the private room door and was met with the sight of a table full of meticulously prepared dishes, yet not a single person was there. Seeing my confusion, the waiter respectfully explained. Miss Lu called about 10 minutes ago to confirm the reservation. She asked us to let you start dining first. She said she had something urgent and might be a little late. Hearing this, I let out a knowing smirk. An urgent matter? More likely, she had gone to be with Makoto. To be fair, she wasn't exactly lying. After all, in her world, anything involving him, no matter how trivial, was always an urgent matter. Once I figured it out, I didn't dwell on it. I stepped inside and took my seat. The waiter busily unwrapped the cutlery, carefully introducing each dish. Looking at the table filled with seafood, I narrowed my eyes slightly. During my years in Europe, I had often resorted to seafood since I couldn't get used to Western cuisine. Eventually, I had grown tired of it. Even after returning to China, I had never truly regained my appetite for it. If this had been before, I would have put up with it for her sake, but now, I no longer felt the need to compromise. With a wave of my hand, I told the waiter to remove everything. The waiter hesitated. After a brief pause, she spoke carefully. Mr. Wang, Miss Lu has already paid for this meal in full. The dishes are quite expensive. Are you sure? Our restaurant has a no-refund policy for cancelled meals. Raising an eyebrow, I pulled a card from my wallet and handed it over. I know, I said. Take everything away. I'll order something else. Charge it to this card. Then, I added with a faint smile. Don't worry, I can afford it. By the time I finished my meal, Willow still hadn't shown up. I didn't bother waiting for her any longer. I paid the bill and left. Halfway home, my phone vibrated with several incoming messages. Willow, George, can you stay somewhere else tonight? Willow, Makoto just got back, and the old family house isn't ready for him. The place is a mess, and most of the lights are broken. Willow, he's not feeling well, and I can't leave him alone. I was hoping he could stay at our place for the night. Is that okay? Taking care of Makoto while still trying to hide their relationship from me. How amusing. This time, I wasn't in the mood to play along with her charade. I asked her directly, isn't he your friend? Why are you so intent on hiding our relationship? How long do you plan to keep this up? A long silence followed. Then, after what felt like an eternity, she sent a single reply. January 18th, Chapter 6. If this had been before, I wouldn't have understood why she chose that specific date, but now, I knew all too well. January 18th, Makoto's birthday. If Makoto fulfilled his promise that day and agreed to be with her, she would undoubtedly break up with me without hesitation. If he didn't, then she would come to her senses and agree to marry me instead. She had skillfully framed her question in a way that would reveal his true intentions. If he rejected her, she could laugh it off as a joke, with me, her ever-loyal boyfriend, as her fallback. Whether she moved forward or retreated, she had a perfect escape plan. I almost had to admire her. Too bad for her. I had no intention of being her backup plan anymore. I didn't reply. Instead, I turned off my phone and booked a hotel for the night. That night, I drank a little before bed, sleeping straight through until the afternoon. When I finally turned my phone back on, dozens of messages flooded in. Most were from Willow. A handful came from her close friends. George, where are you? Why aren't you answering your calls or replying to messages? Don't scare us like that. Willow has been looking for you all night. I scoffed at their accusatory tone. Turning off my phone for a few hours was scaring them. Then what would they call it when I disappear for good? When I break up with Willow and leave to get married? Would they accuse me of going insane? Besides, everyone in that group knew perfectly well who truly mattered to Willow. Did they really think I believed they cared about my well-being? As I was mulling this over, my phone rang. Willow. Her tone was anything but pleasant. George, Makoto was just staying over for one night. Was it really necessary for you to throw a tantrum? Even if you're upset, you shouldn't act out like this. I had no energy left to argue, so I simply gave her a casual excuse. I wasn't upset. My phone ran out of battery and shut off automatically. That's all. Before, she would have believed me without hesitation. But today, for some reason, she decided to press further. Then why is it that no matter when I've called you in the past, I could always reach you? Why was it only last night that your phone conveniently died? Her question caught me off guard. For a moment, countless memories surfaced in my mind. Years ago, in the middle of the night, Willow had a sudden stomachache. She meant to call her assistant but dialed my number by mistake. The moment I heard, I rushed over with medicine. Last year, she went on a business trip abroad. and the time difference was nearly 8 hours. She forgot the time back home and called me at 3 a.m. to ask for a document. I forced myself awake and pulled up my computer to help her find it. 3 months ago, I had undergone an appendectomy, fresh out of surgery, still under the lingering effects of anesthesia. I received a message from her, and I asked the nurse to reply on my behalf. One moment after another, proof of how deeply I had loved her. But no matter how much I gave, she never truly saw it. The realization stung. I couldn't keep the bitterness from creeping into my voice. I just didn't want to miss it if you ever needed me, I said quietly. Then, after a pause, I added, but last night, you didn't need me. For the first time, Willow was at a loss for words. A strange feeling settled in her chest. In the 7 years we had been together, I had always indulged her. Never once had we had a serious fight. Whenever she didn't want to explain something, I never forced her to, and even if I was truly upset, all it took was a soft-spoken apology, a small act of affection, and I would let it go. From daily routines to social gatherings, I had always looked after her, made sure she was comfortable, made her the center of my world. Willow had to admit, I was, by all standards, a nearly perfect boyfriend. Thinking back to all the ways I had cared for her, her tone softened instinctively. George, I know. I was too harsh just now. I was just worried about you. That's all. I'm sorry. Then, as if trying to smooth things over, she asked, where are you now? I'll come find you. I had no interest in seeing her. There's no need, I replied, hailing a taxi and heading home. When I arrived, the housekeeper greeted me at the door. Miss Willow just left, she informed me. There was no need to ask where she had gone. The lingering scent of men's cologne in the air was answer enough. I didn't ask any more questions. Instead, I simply gave a quiet instruction. Open the windows. Let some fresh air in. Chapter 7. For the next half-month, I didn't see Willow at all. It was as if I had completely forgotten I had a girlfriend. I didn't call her, nor did I reply to any of her messages. But through Makoto's social media, I knew exactly where she was and what she was up to. Not that I cared to ask. Not that I cared to find out what was going through her mind. To me, every day I spent here in Shanghai was merely part of a countdown. I had no intention of wasting any more energy on someone I was about to leave behind. On New Year's Eve, snow began to fall. I was in a good mood, wrapped in a blanket by the floor-to-ceiling window, watching movies through the night. At midnight, fireworks erupted outside, brightening the sky with bursts of color. I was feeling drowsy, reclining in my chair as I lazily scrolled through my phone. Then, out of nowhere, the sound of footsteps echoed outside my door. I pushed myself upright just in time to see Willow stumble in. Completely drunk, she wobbled her way inside, arms full of shopping bags, and tossed them onto the sofa. Then, in front of me, she started unpacking them one by one. This is a scarf I just bought, she slurred. It's snowing so hard outside. George, are you cold? She didn't wait for my answer. Instead, she reached over, attempting to wrap the scarf around my neck. I felt too warm and immediately pulled it off. Tossing it aside, she grabbed my hand, her drunken eyes looking up at me pitifully. Sorry. I've been so busy these days, I didn't have time to come back and see you. Are you mad at me? And last time? I shouldn't have left you hanging. George, will you forgive me? Let's be good to each other from now on. Okay. As she spoke, she leaned in, trying to kiss me. I had no idea what had gotten into her, and frankly, I didn't have the patience to deal with it. I brushed her off with a few vague words and coaxed her into the bedroom. Once she was asleep, I tidied up the mess she had left in the living room and then picked up my phone. Social media was filled with New Year's posts, couple pictures, and affectionate captions, but one post stood out the most, Makoto's. He had uploaded a few photos of himself and a girl, playing in the snow. His caption: on the first snow of the year, I met someone new, someone right, someone I like. As I read it, every question I had about Willow's behavior was suddenly answered. No wonder she had come back so drunk. No wonder she had suddenly started acting affectionate toward me. Her beloved Makoto had found someone new. Of course, if he hadn't, why would she have thought of me at all? A cold, mocking smirk crept onto my lips. For the next few days, Willow was like a different person. She didn't go anywhere. She stayed home with me, saying she wanted to spend more time together. I casually mentioned wanting food from a restaurant dozens of kilometers away, and despite the snow, she went out and got it for me. When my stomach wasn't feeling well, she stayed by my side, quietly cooking porridge. When I lingered on a travel ad for a few seconds too long, she immediately started making plans for a post-holiday trip. Perhaps she was heartbroken. This time, she was more attentive than she had ever been before, but I wasn't moved. I watched her play the role of a devoted girlfriend, watched as she busied herself over my casual words, and felt nothing. If anything, I saw it as her way of repaying a debt. For everything she had taken from me over the years, This was just a small price to pay. That thought lifted any last shred of guilt I might have had. A few days later, after the snow had cleared, my mother sent over several suit options for my wedding. She had also sent a few styles of wedding dresses, asking which one I thought would be best. I scrolled through them one by one, zooming in to examine the details. I was so focused that I didn't even notice when Willow silently walked up behind me. Not until she suddenly snatched my phone away. I turned sharply, only to see her expression darken instantly. She demanded, "Why are you looking at this?" I didn't blink as I lied effortlessly. "Didn't I tell you before? A friend is getting married soon. Their wedding attire had some issues, so they're picking out new ones. They asked for my opinion." Watching my calm and collected face, her suspicion slowly faded. She handed the phone back to me but hesitated before asking, "Oh, I forgot about that. When's the wedding? I'll go with you." At her words, my expression turned subtle. "January 19th, I replied casually. "Are you sure you want to come?" The date made her freeze slightly. I held her gaze, waiting patiently for her response. After a long silence, she forced a smile, one that barely reached her eyes. "We'll see," she murmured. "Maybe." Chapter 8. In the days that followed, I started preparing to leave. Ever since that conversation, Willow had sunk back into a state of melancholy, drifting through each day as if in a daze. With the excuse of an upcoming wedding, I made no effort to hide my actions. I packed my belongings openly, right in front of her. I had lived in this riverfront apartment for 6 years since graduating, and over time, my belongings had accumulated, filling every corner of the space, but I only took the things I was truly attached to, the few items I couldn't bear to part with. Everything else, I left behind. After all, once I was back in City A, everything I needed would be within reach. These things could stay here. Occasionally, Willow would wander over and rummage through my suitcase, but she never asked any questions. I knew why. She was too preoccupied, waiting, hoping, for Makoto to send her an invitation to his birthday celebration. She was so focused on that anticipation that she never noticed how many personal belongings I had secretly discarded. As long as I left our old couple's memorabilia in place, she wouldn't suspect a thing. After all, in her mind, my love for her was so deep that I would sacrifice my life for her. Why would she ever think I would truly leave? With this mindset, I packed with an unexpected sense of ease. January 18th. The sky was overcast, heavy with the promise of rain. Willow woke up early and sat on the sofa, staring at her phone. I woke a little later, quietly eating breakfast at the dining table. The housekeeper glanced out the window at the gloomy sky and asked, "Mr. Wong, it looks like it might rain. Should we head to the airport a little earlier?" At the mention of airport, Willow instinctively looked up. "Airport? Why are you going to the airport?" she asked. I met her gaze and answered casually, "I told you, I'm going to the wedding tomorrow. You said you'd think about it. Have you made up your mind?" I watched her carefully. She hesitated for a few seconds before replying, "It's too far. I won't go, but I'll go with you to the airport." I wasn't surprised by her answer. Finishing my last piece of toast, I wiped my hands clean and headed to the bedroom to grab my suitcase. We had just stepped out of the building when Willow's phone chimed. She hurriedly pulled it out, and the moment she saw the message, a spark of unmistakable joy flickered across her usually cool expression. She put her phone down and immediately turned to go back inside. It wasn't until she realized what she was doing that she stopped abruptly, turning back to me in a rush. "George, something urgent came up. I have to take care of it. You go to the airport on your own." I had been with her for so many years. From the flicker of hesitation in her eyes, I knew instantly that she was lying, but I didn't call her out on it. I merely nodded. As I waited for my car, I opened my phone and scrolled through social media. Sure enough, Makoto had just posted pictures from his birthday celebration. The pretty girl who had been in his last few posts was gone. Another breakup, which meant that his old promise, the one where he said he'd be with Willow if he was still single at 28, was alive once more. No wonder she was so happy. Just then, a white car pulled up. Willow had changed into a sleek white evening gown, her excitement radiating through her entire posture as she stepped into the vehicle. She lowered her window, waving at me. "When are you coming back?" she asked. "Back?" There was no coming back. I smiled at her but didn't answer. I simply waved in return. She didn't seem to care either way. Her car pulled away quickly, disappearing into the distance. Only after her car was completely out of sight did I finally exhale. I turned to the driver and spoke softly. "Let's go." The rain began to fall, light but persistent, wetting the car windows and blurring the reflection in the glass. The city, the past, everything, fading, dissolving. I didn't want to look at it anymore. I closed my eyes, and in my heart, I whispered a quiet farewell. Goodbye, forever. Chapter 9. Just before boarding, I received a call from my father. "George, what time does your flight land? I'll have Xiaosu pick you up." I was eager to get home, so I didn't refuse. I hadn't slept well the night before, and as soon as I settled into my seat on the plane, exhaustion crept in. I dozed off, sleeping through the entire 2-hour flight. Upon landing in City A, I pulled on my hat and sunglasses before stepping out of the arrivals gate, only to be stopped by someone. Wang Xiancheng. George. The voice was clear and crisp. Still groggy from sleep, I nodded slightly. The woman in front of me smiled. Mr. Wang asked me to pick you up. I squinted at her, trying to clear my hazy mind. So this was Xiao Su, but why was the driver a woman? I didn't dwell on it. Climbing into the car, I leaned against the window and dozed off again. By the time I woke up, the unfamiliar sight outside startled me. A large, elegant villa loomed beyond the car window. I blinked rapidly, my voice thick with suspicion. Where is this? This isn't my home. Hearing my confusion, Xiao Su chuckled lightly. Not today, she replied, but tomorrow it will be. Technically speaking, this is your wedding house. Wedding house? Only now did it truly sink in. I was getting married tomorrow. I let out a soft "oh," stepping out of the car and strolling leisurely toward the house. Xiao Su followed behind me. As I took in the view of the courtyard, curiosity got the better of me. I turned to her and asked, "Do you know my fiancé's name?" She seemed slightly taken aback but answered anyway. "Anna." I frowned. Why didn't I recall any prominent family in City A with that name? Perhaps I had been away for too long, and the social landscape had shifted. I reassured myself with that thought and continued with a few more practical questions. Where is the wedding being held? The hot spring estate. What time is the ceremony? 11 in the morning. She answered smoothly and confidently. I was quite satisfied with her professionalism. Will you be picking me up again tomorrow? I asked absent-mindedly, meaning if she'd be driving again. There was a brief silence before she responded, sounding mildly amused. Of course. It seemed like every detail of the wedding had been meticulously arranged. As we approached the front door, I turned back to grab my suitcase. All right then, you can head back now. Just be here on time tomorrow to pick me up for the bride. I expected her to leave, but she neither replied nor moved. I found it odd and was about to ask when a familiar voice called down from the balcony above. "George, you're back. Come up and take a look at your new home." I instinctively looked up and greeted my family members before attempting to pull my suitcase forward, only to find it wouldn't budge. My mother waved a hand dismissively. Anna, come up with him. You're getting married tomorrow, what's there to be shy about? Anna. The driver is Anna. My fiancée. I froze in place, completely stunned. Any lingering sleepiness vanished instantly. Slowly, I removed my hat and sunglasses, turning to face her fully, only to meet a pair of bright, knowing eyes filled with quiet amusement. Seeing my shock, Anna seemed to understand the situation immediately. She extended a hand toward me. "Forgot to introduce myself properly," she said, her tone light and teasing. "Mr. Wang, I'm Anna." I forced a smile, awkwardly shaking her hand. Even my voice carried a hint of guilt. Sorry about that. I wasn't fully awake." "I'm George." Anna simply laughed, pushing open the villa door without a care. "That's all right," she said cheerfully. "We have plenty of time to get to know each other." Chapter 10. Before stepping into the private room, Willow lowered her head, carefully smoothing out every wrinkle in her dress. Her phone buzzed a few times. She took it out and saw a notification. George's flight had taken off. After hesitating for a moment, she typed out a quick message. "Let me know when you land." With that, she composed herself, took a deep breath, and pushed open the door. The room was bathed in white, from the decorations to the cake. Even the guests were dressed in light colors. For a fleeting moment, Willow felt as if she had walked into a wedding instead of a birthday celebration. Her gaze swept across the room, quickly landing on the one person she had been longing to see, Makoto. Her heartbeat quickened, and without thinking, she made her way toward him. As she approached, she overheard a few guys laughing and teasing. "Makoto, are you finally going to introduce her to us today? You've been hiding her for so long." Makoto chuckled. "Relax. When I make my wish later, you'll all be in for a surprise." "A wish?" Willow's pulse raced. Her mind flashed back to her own birthday celebration just a month ago. Could it be? Could that promise he made at 16 finally come true today? 4 hours. The thought consumed her. She sipped on her wine, trying to calm her nerves, but the anticipation only grew stronger. Finally, the cake was brought out. Willow's hands trembled slightly. Her close friends gathered around, their faces full of barely concealed excitement. One of them smirked. "Willow, your dream is about to come true. How do you feel?" Willow lowered her head, smiling but saying nothing. Sophia, who had been watching the scene unfold, suddenly remembered something. She leaned in and whispered, "If this really happens, what about George?" Hearing that name at Makoto's birthday party made Willow's smile freeze. A pang of guilt stirred inside her. Sensing her hesitation, her friends quickly chimed in with reassurances. "Don't worry, just break up with him now. It's not like he's rich or powerful, what can he even do?" Exactly. If he causes trouble, we'll help you handle it. Just focus on your happiness, Willow. Encouraged by their words, Willow pulled out her phone and typed a short message. Let's break up. Her finger hovered over the send button. For a moment, she hesitated, but before she could change her mind, one of her friends grabbed her hand and pressed it down. Just like that, the message was sent. It appeared right below her previous one. Let me know when you land. Let's break up. A 3-hour gap between them. George's flight should have landed by now. He would see it soon. Willow's thoughts swirled. Before she could dwell on it, her friends pulled her forward, guiding her toward the center of the room. The birthday song filled the space. Willow held her breath, her heart pounding as she watched Makoto clasp his hands together, preparing to make his wish. Then, in a soft but resolute voice, he spoke. I wish that 28 brings me success in everything I do, and that next year, I can make a wish together with Maria. Willow's smile vanished in an instant. Her face turned ghostly pale. The room, however, erupted into cheers, laughter, applause, and excited voices filled the air. Who's Maria? Someone shouted playfully. Makoto. Aren't you going to introduce her to us? Amidst the commotion, Makoto grinned. She's my new girlfriend. The words barely left his mouth before the door to the private room swung open. A young woman in an elegant purple dress stepped in gracefully. She had a delicate yet striking appearance, exuding quiet confidence as she smiled at the room. Hello, everyone, she said warmly. I'm Maria, Makoto's girlfriend. Chapter 11. Amid the lively chatter and laughter, Makoto held his new girlfriend's hand, sharing bits and pieces of their love story with his friends. In the corner, Willow sat quietly, drowning herself in alcohol with her closest friends, one drink after another. Soon, they were all drunk. Sophia, swaying slightly, suddenly pushed herself up and stumbled toward Makoto. Under the bewildered gazes of everyone in the room, she furrowed her brows and spoke with the reckless boldness that only alcohol could bring. Makoto, did you forget the promise you made to Willow? At those words, Maria's expression shifted ever so slightly. She turned her head, looking at Makoto with curiosity. A promise? She asked. What promise? Makoto's face darkened instantly, but Sophia was too drunk to notice or care. The other girls, seeing her take the lead, quickly stepped forward to back her up. You promised Willow that if you were both still single at 28, you'd be together, one of them accused. Yeah, we all remember. Are you trying to weasel your way out of it? Another chimed in. Maria's previously warm smile began to cool. She turned her gaze back to Makoto, her eyes deep and unreadable. Is that true? She asked. Makoto forced out a chuckle. That was just a drunken joke. How could you take that seriously? Besides, I specifically said it was if I was still single. But I have a girlfriend now, so obviously, it doesn't count. He dismissed it without hesitation. Every word, like a chisel, carved deep into Willow's heart. Pain so sharp it was almost unbearable. One hand clutched at her chest, as if trying to hold herself together, while the other gripped the armrest of the sofa. Under everyone's eyes, she suddenly burst into laughter, wild, bitter, unhinged. Yes, of course, it doesn't count. You have a girlfriend, and I have a boyfriend. It was all just a joke, wasn't it? Maria's smile returned. She nodded lightly, looping her arm through Makoto's as she stepped forward, her expression as composed as ever. It seems like this was just a misunderstanding then, she said smoothly. I had heard that Willow had a boyfriend. Why didn't you bring him tonight? Willow's mind was a complete blank. Still, she forced herself to smile and meet Maria's gaze. He went back home for a wedding, she answered. He wasn't free tonight. Maria nodded knowingly, but Makoto's expression changed ever so slightly. A flicker of something, annoyance, suspicion, crossed his face. Boyfriend, he scoffed, his tone laced with disbelief. Who? I've been back for a while now, and I haven't heard you mention anyone. Looking at his face, Willow suddenly found herself unable to speak. She had spent years waiting for him, and now, he was interrogating her. Sophia stepped in, steadying Willow as she shot a glare at Makoto, her voice dripping with sarcasm. It's George, she said. Willow's boyfriend. You met him at her birthday party. You don't remember. Makoto's expression stiffened. George? His mind flashed back to that night, to the way George had smiled, calmly, almost mockingly, as he introduced himself as Willow's ordinary friend. Something about it had seemed off, but at the time, he hadn't thought much of it. Now, he instinctively questioned it. But that night, they both said they were just friends, he said, frowning. Sophia rolled her eyes. Ugh, just a little couple fight. You, of all people, should understand that. Makoto, haven't you dated enough to know? Makoto's face flushed red with frustration. His jaw tightened. He couldn't let this go. Then let's call him, he said coldly. If he's really Willow's boyfriend, why don't we give him a call? I'd love to get to know him better. The room fell into sudden silence. Willow and her friends all went pale at the same time. because in their minds, they could still see the last message she had sent just a short while ago. Let's break up. Chapter 12. Just by looking at their faces, Makoto was certain something was off. Without hesitation, he pulled out his phone, found George's contact, and dialed. The women around Willow immediately panicked, trying to snatch the phone away, but Maria stopped them with a calm smile. Makoto took it a step further. He turned on the speaker, maxed out the volume, and let the entire room listen in. The room fell eerily silent. The only sound was the steady ringing of the call. Willow clenched her fists inside her sleeves, her palms cold and clammy. She silently prayed that George wouldn't answer, prayed that he hadn't yet seen her message. The ringing continued for nearly a full minute. Just as everyone started losing interest, just as the call was about to time out, the line connected. From the speaker came George's voice, smooth, calm, and carrying a hint of surprise. Ito-san, what's the matter? Willow's face instantly drained of color. Meanwhile, Makoto's expression twisted into something unreadable, half amusement, half triumph. Oh, nothing much, he said lightly. It's my birthday today. I heard you're Willow's boyfriend, so I wanted to invite you to join us. A brief pause. Willow could barely breathe. Then, George's voice returned. Apologies. I'm in Cydia right now. I'm afraid I can't make it. Hearing his normal tone, Willow felt a tiny bit of relief. Maybe he hadn't seen the message yet. But then, George let out a soft, drawn-out, ah. There was something almost teasing in his tone as he continued. Oh, by the way, I've already broken up with Willow. Ito-san, please don't misunderstand. The air in the room turned suffocating. Makoto's expression flickered with surprise, then delight. Broken up, he repeated, his voice laced with schadenfreude. When did that happen? Not too long ago, George replied. About 10 minutes ago. I received her message. I hadn't had the chance to reply yet. Ito-san, if you could pass a message for me, that would be great. Tell her I agree. A ripple of suppressed laughter spread through the room. Some of the guests turned their heads, trying to stifle their amusement. Makoto himself was grinning as he swept a slow glance over the women who had stirred up this mess. He spoke again, his voice casual but laced with condescension. Understood. I'll be sure to pass it along. Sorry for the disturbance, Mr. Wong. No trouble at all, George said smoothly. And happy 28th birthday. Wishing you and your loved ones all the best. The weight George placed on the words 28th birthday was deliberate. It was a message, a statement. He knew everything. Yet, no one in the room dared to say a word. The call ended. For 5 full minutes, the room sat in complete silence, the mood plummeting to sub-zero temperatures. Finally, Maria, ever the tactful one, raised her glass and clinked it against Willow's. A toast, she said with a small smile. And just like that, the matter was brushed aside. Willow drained her glass in one go. Then, without a word, she slammed it down on the table, turned on her heels, and stormed out with her friends. As she reached the exit, she vaguely heard Maria's voice again. Makoto, this Mr. Wong, is he from City A? Makoto barely looked up. I think so. Why? Maria hummed thoughtfully. No reason. The surname Wong just feels familiar. Maybe I'm overthinking it. Outside, Willow's friends immediately pulled her into another private lounge, trying to console her. Honestly, Willow, not marrying Makoto is a blessing in disguise. Exactly. Look at how many ex-girlfriends he's had. If you married him, you'd need an extra 10 tables at the wedding just for them. A guy like that, total player. He's fun for a fling, but trust me, he'd be a disaster as a husband. You should stick with George. Yeah. George is way better than Makoto. He's probably just angry right now. That's why he said those things. Willow, just go home, act cute, and apologize. No guy can resist that. Encouraged by their words, Willow's initial panic began to settle. She pulled out her phone, took a deep breath, and carefully composed a message. Willow, George, I just lost a game, and the punishment was to text my boyfriend saying I wanted to break up. Then we had to call and see how they'd react. Please don't take it seriously. How long will you be in City A? Have you checked into your hotel yet? Or are you busy setting up the wedding venue? Are you coming back tomorrow or the day after? I'll come pick you up. Okay. She sent the message and waited, and waited, and waited. No reply. Willow stared at the screen, her heart pounding with unease. Her friends exchanged glances. Sensing her rising panic, they quickly ordered another round of drinks. Sophia nudged her. Oh, come on. Weddings are crazy busy. He's probably just swamped. Exactly. Another friend chimed in. If he's really mad, we'll just fly to City A tomorrow. You can apologize in person. Chapter 13. When I received Willow's messages, I was in the middle of helping Anna try on wedding dresses. I opened the chat, read the first line, and couldn't help but laugh out loud. So she could come up with such an excuse on the spot. Her brain really was quick. Too bad for her. I wasn't buying a single word of it. I didn't even need to think about it to know what had happened. Makoto must have played her, and now, unable to save face, she was trying to backpedal. And that phone call earlier, the scene at his birthday party must have been quite the spectacle. For a fleeting moment, I almost regretted not witnessing it in person. I let out a soft sigh, hearing it. Anna, who had been adjusting the folds of her gown, looked up at me. "What's wrong? Do you not like this dress? I can change into another one." I quickly waved my hand and explained, "No, it's not that. I just realized I missed a really good show because of the wedding. A bit of a shame. That's all." "A good show?" Anna asked, curious. "What kind of show? Can you tell me about it?" Though I had the urge to share, I was also aware that discussing an ex-girlfriend in front of my fiancé wasn't exactly appropriate, so I diverted the topic. "Just some friends from Shanghai messing around at a birthday party. A bit of a misunderstanding. Nothing important. We should focus on the wedding instead." Seeing that I didn't want to elaborate, Anna didn't press further. Instead, she left the room and returned with some snacks. "You've been helping me all afternoon. You must be hungry. Have something to tide you over. After we finish up, we can go out for dinner. Is there anything you feel like eating?" Now that she mentioned it, I was actually a bit hungry. I asked her for her preferences, noted them down, and stepped out to make arrangements. As I ordered the food, my mind wandered. From what I had gathered earlier, Anna was the third daughter of the Su family, owners of the Su Corporation in City A. She was 2 years younger than me. Her eldest sister, 5 years older than her, was now the vice president of Su Corporation and had practically raised her. Unlike their second sister, who was notorious for her ever-changing string of boyfriends, Anna was well-mannered and composed. In recent years, the Wang and Su families had grown closer. Only after thorough consideration did my family finally suggest a marriage alliance. According to my mother, Anna had agreed to the engagement after taking just one look at my photo. Apparently, she was very satisfied with me. I found that statement hard to believe. After all, I had returned to get married with the sole purpose of contributing to my family's business. From the start, I hadn't put much thought into this arranged marriage. If it worked, great. If it didn't, we'd just divorce. This was a corporate marriage, neither of us had a real say in it. So the idea that she had fallen for me at first sight seemed like a ridiculous embellishment. That said, after spending an afternoon with her, I had to admit, I had no complaints about my soon-to-be wife. Her looks went without saying, stunning, absolutely top tier. As for her personality, she seemed gentle and composed, methodical and considerate in the way she handled things. She also had a sharp sense of social etiquette. All in all, she was far better than I had expected. More than just acceptable, she was, surprisingly, impressive. Looks like my parents really did have good taste. Chapter 14. After drinking the entire night, the first thing Willow did upon waking up was check her phone. She had been waiting for George's reply, but even after more than 10 hours, the chat box remained empty. Her frustration boiled over. She rubbed her eyes harshly before grabbing her phone and hurling it against the wall. The loud impact startling everyone awake. The sound sobered them up instantly. Sophia was the first to react. Without hesitation, she grabbed her phone and called her assistant, instructing them to book 6 of the earliest available flights to City A. She said, "I didn't expect George to be the type to play these hard-to-get games." "Don't worry, Willow, we'll go with you. We'll bring him back." The others quickly joined in, cracking jokes to lighten the mood. Willow's mood lifted slightly. They left the bar and headed straight for the airport. On the way, Willow gazed absent-mindedly at the towering buildings outside, her mind full of regret. If she had known last night would end like this, she would have accepted George's invitation to City A instead. Thinking about it now, the disappointment in her heart deepened, but she quickly reassured herself. Maybe it was better this way. At least she had finally heard Makoto say those words himself, finally putting an end to her years of waiting. For over a decade, she had held onto the promise of his 28th birthday. Even when she was on the verge of giving up, that promise had kept her going. And after dating George, the conflict within her had nearly driven her insane, unsure of how to face the man who had given her his entire heart. Now, she no longer had a choice. It was time to make a final decision. She slipped off her stained coat, tossing it aside, and cautiously asked her friends, "If George doesn't forgive me today, I think I'll propose to him. What do you think?" The mere mention of marriage made her friends freeze. Sophia's eyes widened. "Marry George? With his background, do you really think your parents will agree?" Another friend added, "George is nice. Sure, he's attractive, emotionally stable, but he's not exactly husband material for someone like you." Despite their discouraging words, Willow wasn't listening. She leaned back in her seat, her mind replaying the countless memories of her time with George. After her 25th birthday, every few months, George would subtly bring up the topic of marriage, testing the waters. She had always understood his intentions, knew his family was urging him to settle down, but for her own selfish reasons, she had chosen to pretend she didn't hear him. Now, they were both getting older. George had loved her deeply, unwaveringly, for years, and she had finally seen clearly. She didn't want to lose him. Even though marriage wouldn't be easy, especially with her family's opposition, she was willing to try. With that thought, Willow made up her mind. She was going to propose. Pulling out her phone, she messaged her assistant, instructing her to bid on a pair of luxury wedding rings that had recently made waves online. Before boarding the plane, her assistant replied with unexpected news. Those rings were auctioned off for $9 billion. Willow's brows furrowed in disbelief. $9 billion. For wedding rings? She asked who the buyer was. Her assistant sent a single character in response. Sue. Willow's eyes narrowed. Sue. City A Sue family. The Sue family was a household name among high society. Even Willow was momentarily taken aback. However, she did have some connections with the Sue family's second daughter, so she called to ask, "That pair of wedding rings?" The woman on the other end of the line laughed. "Yeah, I bought them. My little sister is getting married today, so I gifted them as a wedding present." Willow, you're asking too late. The Sue family's third daughter is getting married today. So many weddings happening on the same day. Willow was surprised but kept her tone polite. "Oh, I had too much to drink last night and forgot to bid. My mistake. Anyway, since the third Miss Sue is getting married, please send her my congratulations. She must be marrying someone incredible to receive such a lavish gift." The second Miss Sue laughed heartily. "Not at all. Not at all. My little sister is marrying into the Wong family. A perfect match, truly a marriage made in heaven." Willow's body stiffened. Wong family. The moment she heard that surname, she immediately thought of George. George also had the surname Wong. Could the wedding he was attending be the Sue Wong wedding? Did he have relatives or connections in City A's Wong family? A flood of strange thoughts raced through Willow's mind, but as soon as she stepped out of the car, the winter wind hit her. Clearing her head, she shook off the absurd idea, pressing her fingers against her temples. How ridiculous. George, connected to the Wong family? He was just a small-town academic, a man with nothing but a head full of books. How could he possibly be related to them? Chapter 15. As soon as the plane landed at the capital's airport, Willow called George. He seemed to still be holding a grudge. The background was noisy, and his tone was far from friendly. "Ex-girlfriend, did you call me for something specific?" The moment she heard that term, the anger she had been suppressing since last night flared up again, but she knew now wasn't the time to throw a tantrum. Taking a deep breath, she forced herself to stay patient and explain. "George, that breakup message yesterday, it was just a joke. Can't you believe me?" Before she could even finish, George interrupted her. "Is that so? I don't care whether it was a joke or a game. I only believe what I see. No need to explain. I'm busy right now and don't have time for this." With that, he hung up. Willow's face darkened with frustration. Seeing her on the verge of exploding, Sophia quickly dragged her into the car. "Don't argue over the phone," Sophia coaxed. "Just wait until you see him in person. Act a little cute, apologize, and he'll forgive you." The rest of their friends chimed in, reassuring her as the car exited the parking garage. Then, the driver turned back and asked, "Where to?" Everyone froze. They stared at each other, realizing none of them actually knew where the wedding was being held. Sophia hesitated before deciding to call George herself, just in case he and Willow ended up fighting again. "George, we're in Cydia now. Where's the wedding venue?" A few seconds later, an unfamiliar female voice answered, "Just come to the Hot Spring Estate." The moment Willow heard the stranger's voice, an unexplainable irritation surged inside her. She immediately grabbed the phone, about to demand who the woman was, only for the call to end abruptly. Sophia, seeing the storm brewing in Willow's expression, quickly tried to calm her down. "Come on, you know how George is. He did say he was busy. He's a groomsman. He probably just left his phone with a friend. Don't get jealous over this, okay?" Willow's expression eased slightly at that explanation, and the group relayed the address to the driver. But the moment the words Hot Spring Estate left their lips, the atmosphere inside the car shifted. They all exchanged glances, realization dawning at the same time. That estate wasn't just any venue. It was one of the most exclusive locations in City A, where only the wealthiest, most influential families held their events. George's friend was having their wedding here. A sense of unease settled in Willow's chest, and for the first time, the thoughts she had dismissed earlier resurfaced. Could George really be related to the Wong family? At 10:30 a.m., with the wedding about to begin, guests gradually took their seats. I stood on the rooftop balcony, gazing down at the sprawling lawn below, decorated with thousands of imported roses. A flicker of surprise passed through my eyes. A few days ago, my mother had mentioned that the Sue family had insisted on handling all the wedding arrangements. They had certainly put in the effort, but seeing it in person now, I realized she had actually understated things. A Wong Sue family wedding was bound to draw every significant figure in the social circle. At most, I had expected 700 or 800 tables, but the venue was vast, far more extravagant than necessary. Even in the middle of winter, they had arranged for countless heaters to ensure guests were comfortable. The floral arrangements, flown in directly from Europe, had been crafted into elaborate archways, and the wedding favors. Each guest received a solid gold twin heart lock. The sheer extravagance of it all made even me, someone who had grown up abroad, feel a little overwhelmed. Smoothing back my wind-tousled hair, I was about to make a comment when Anna approached. "Too cold out here," she said gently. "Come inside." I nodded and followed her back into the room. A moment later, she handed me a cup of hot coffee. Then, she asked, "Someone just called saying they arrived in City A and were asking for the wedding location. Was that one of your friends? Should we send someone to pick them up?" Chapter 16. Friends. What friends? A flicker of surprise crossed my face as I quickly grabbed my phone and checked the call log. Seeing Sophia's name, my expression turned somewhat amused. "Sophia called. She's here?" I asked. Anna, still unaware of the situation, nodded lightly. The corners of my lips curled into a knowing smile. "No need to pick them up," I said. "They'll find their way in on their own. There are too many people at the venue already, and I noticed quite a few cameras hidden in the mountains nearby. I'll send security to tighten surveillance. We wouldn't want any trouble." Anna didn't question it, simply agreeing before handing me the wedding rings. Then, she turned and left the room. Only after she was gone did I finally let out the laughter I had been holding back. Willow came to my wedding. I could barely imagine what her face would look like when she saw me standing at the altar, amused. I opened the ring box, but as soon as I saw what was inside, my smile faded slightly. These rings, I had seen them in a magazine 2 months ago. I had even shared the article with Willow. At the time, I had pictured kneeling before her, slipping the ring onto her finger as I proposed. Back then, I had no idea that just 2 weeks later, I would discover the truth about her and Makoto. And now, at this wedding I had barely participated in planning, the rings had somehow fallen into my hands. And the bride, well, she was someone much better. Better this than walking blindly into a disaster. Looking back on the last 7 years, I felt no lingering attachment, only relief. At exactly 11 a.m., the wedding began. Before an audience of distinguished guests, Mr. Su walked his daughter down the aisle, placing her hand in mine. The ceremony proceeded smoothly, until we reached the ring exchange. Just as I was about to slide the ring onto Anna's finger, a commotion erupted from the crowd. I instinctively turned my head toward the source of the noise, and there she was, Willow. She was fighting off the people trying to stop her. Her bloodshot eyes locked onto me with an intensity that was almost deranged. Her face, usually so composed, was twisted in pure rage. Behind her, her friends followed, charging through the crowd, shouting my name. The entire venue turned silent. Hundreds of guests turned to watch, their gazes shifting between the stage and the spectacle unfolding below. I remained calm. Beside me, Anna wore an expression of confusion and irritation. I leaned in and quickly reassured her. "Sorry," I murmured. "She's an old friend from Shanghai. Can we pause the ceremony for a few minutes so I can handle this?" Anna hesitated, then gave a slight nod. I raised my hand, signaling for the event staff to halt. Security had already subdued Willow and her friends, dragging them toward the exit. But at my gesture, they stopped. From start to finish, Willow's gaze never left me, not even for a second. She took in the sight of me in a groom's tuxedo, standing on the altar with a calm, indifferent expression. Her lips trembled. Then, as if she could no longer contain herself, she clenched her teeth and spat out. "You said you were attending a friend's wedding. Your friend is yourself." The corners of my lips twitched. Seeing her this furious, I almost couldn't hold back my amusement. "Isn't it common knowledge that, 'I have a friend,' is just another way of referring to yourself?" I replied casually. Chapter 17. Willow was so furious she almost laughed. She shut her eyes briefly, then opened them again, her gaze now burning with rage. "So this is your excuse for marrying behind my back?" she demanded. I replied calmly. "Behind your back, Willow. The Wang Su wedding has been trending online for over a month. Do you not use the internet?" Wang and Su. Willow froze, then suddenly snapped her gaze toward Anna. There was a resemblance. Anna's face bore at least a 5-point similarity to her older sister, and in that moment, recognition dawned. Her pupils dilated, the corners of her lips trembled slightly. Her entire expression screamed one thing: unbelievable. Anna's fiancé was George. Then, who exactly was George? Behind her, Sophia and the others finally processed what was happening. Their shock exploded into exclamations. "George, you're from City A's Wang family." I met their stunned faces with an easy patience, then slowly introduced myself. To be precise, I am the next heir to City A's Wang family, the only son of Martin and Carolina Wang, and Anna's fiancé. I swept my gaze over them. "Do any of you still have questions about my identity?" Silence. Complete and utter silence. In Shanghai, perhaps their families carried some weight, but here in City A, the capital of the nation, where the Wang and Su families reigned, whatever influence they had was utterly insignificant. No one spoke for a long time. Finally, Willow, her voice hoarse, forced out the only question that mattered to her. Why didn't you ever tell me before? I met her eyes. Didn't you also hide a lot from me? Like, for instance, the whole thing about 28. At my words, all color drained from Willow's face. She began to struggle again, frantically trying to explain. I can explain, George. Yes, I never forgot about Makoto, but these past 7 years, I frowned, about to cut her off, but before I could, Anna, who had remained quiet all this time, finally spoke. Take them away. She didn't raise her voice, nor did she display any hostility, but her tone was firm. As security moved to escort them out, she turned to me and gently took my hand. Her voice remained soft and composed as she said, "Now isn't the right time for reminiscing. George, let's invite your friends for a private meal after the wedding. We shouldn't keep the guests waiting." Anna had sensed something was wrong. From the moment Willow stormed in, she had been filled with unease. She was worried that a scandal involving the groom and his ex would make the Su family lose face. Worried that, if things escalated, the elders might even cancel the wedding. So she made a swift and decisive choice. She shut it down. There were undoubtedly many things she wanted to ask me, but this was neither the time nor the place. I watched as security led Willow and her friends away, and for the first time, I felt a genuine flicker of surprise toward Anna. Even in the middle of all this, she had remained clear-headed and made the best possible decision. I turned to her and met her gaze. Then, I nodded. She linked her arm through mine, and together, we returned to the center of the stage. The soft melody of a grand piano filled the venue once more. Surrounded by applause and well wishes, we exchanged our wedding rings. As I tossed the bouquet into the crowd, petals, feathers, and ribbons drifted from the sky like a gentle snowfall. I caught a single petal in my palm, holding it there for a moment. The sun shone brightly overhead, casting its warm glow across everything. I turned my back on the past, and without hesitation, I walked forward, toward my future. Chapter 18. After the grand wedding finally came to an end, exhaustion settled over me. Thinking back to the day's events, I knew it was time for an open and honest conversation with Anna. I took a moment to gather my thoughts before speaking. "Do you have any questions about what happened today?" Anna had been unbuttoning her sleeve but paused mid-motion, her gaze lifting to meet mine. "If you want to tell me, then yes, I have questions," she said calmly. "If you don't, then I don't need to ask." Her measured and gentle response caught me off guard. For the first time, I had the distinct feeling that I had married someone unusual, someone who wasn't easily shaken. Despite the chaos at the wedding, she had shown no resentment, no anger, and now, she remained composed, suppressing any curiosity out of respect for my boundaries. Such self-restraint, such magnanimity, it was impressive. I couldn't help but test her a little further. "Aren't you curious about my relationship with them?" I asked. "Aren't you worried that this whole ordeal might come back to haunt us?" Anna simply smiled. She slid off her silk blouse and settled onto a nearby chair. Her posture relaxed, her expression serene. "I am curious, and yes, I suppose there is some concern, but that's not what truly matters." Her voice was soft, yet unwavering. "What matters is that our wedding was successfully completed. You are now my husband, and we will walk together through many tomorrows. The past is the past. If you choose to share, I will gladly listen. If you choose to stay silent, I will respect that as well. There is no need to dwell on things that cannot be changed, don't you think?" Her words left me momentarily speechless. I found myself wondering if she really was younger than me. 26. To have such clarity and composure at 26. The difference between people could be staggering, and with this realization, my impression of Anna shifted once more. Something about her demeanor, her outlook, it made me want to be just as direct. So, for the first time, I spoke without pretense. "The people at the wedding today," I began, then exhaled. "That was my ex-girlfriend and her friends. We were together for 7 years. I had planned to marry her, but she was in love with someone else the entire time. When I found out, I decided to end things and return to City A. At the same time, my parents were urging me to settle down. When they proposed this marriage, I agreed. Yesterday, I officially broke up with her. She didn't know I was from the Wang family, so she crashed the wedding today, thinking I was just attending as a guest." As I spoke, Anna's expression shifted slightly, something subtle, yet unreadable. Then, she asked the one question that seemed to amuse her most. "Yesterday you broke up, and today, you got married. Don't you think that's a little hasty?" I shrugged. "Maybe, but ours is a business marriage. As long as we appear stable in the public eye, what does it matter?" I spoke matter-of-factly, as if this was all just another calculated decision. Anna studied me for a long time, the corners of her lips curving upward. Her smile deepened, her eyes unreadable. "Aren't you even a little interested in what kind of person your arranged spouse is?" "Not really," I admitted. "I just want to take over the Wong Corporation as soon as possible." Anyone else might have found such indifference insulting, but for some reason, my words didn't seem to offend Anna. If anything, her heart trembled for just a fraction of a second. She held my gaze for a long while before giving a slow nod. "Then perhaps," she mused softly, "we will get along just fine." Chapter 19. Dragged hundreds of meters by security in front of a massive crowd, Willow had never experienced such humiliation in her life. Her once elegant dress was now nothing more than tattered strips hanging off her shoulders. Her back scraped raw, bruises forming across her skin. Dirt and dust clung to her from head to toe. Her friends weren't in much better shape. Dumped at the entrance of the estate, they found themselves facing a line of imposing security guards, all silently demanding that they leave. And just beyond the steps, a sea of journalists, dozens of reporters, cameras hoisted on their shoulders, had been lingering outside, desperate for any footage from the grand wedding they'd been barred from covering. The moment they saw Willow, their eyes lit up. A few quick-witted ones recognized her immediately and rushed forward. "Miss Liu, were you an invited guest at Miss Su and Mr. Wang's wedding? You seem to be in a rather difficult situation. Did something happen inside?" With one person leading the charge, a swarm of reporters closed in, snapping photos and shouting questions. Willow had already been pushed to her breaking point. Now, she was being photographed in her most disgraceful state. Fury exploded inside her. With no hesitation, she lashed out, shoving reporters aside, sending several cameras crashing to the ground. Then, without another word, she stormed off. That night, headlines exploded across entertainment news. Miss Liu assaults journalists after being thrown out of Wang Su wedding, disgraced heiress or sore loser. The backlash was immediate. Liu Corporation's reputation plummeted overnight. Negative press flooded the media, and no amount of money could keep the scandal at bay. Makoto's call came through just as Willow sat in her hotel room, drowning herself in alcohol. The scent of liquor clung to her as she answered. "Willow, I just saw the news. So it's true. George, he's actually from the Wang family." Her voice was cold. "Yes, he is. So what?" Hearing her confirmation, a hint of excitement slipped into Makoto's tone. "Maria just told me, Kim, Liu, and Ito have finalized their joint project, but the final decision for its approval is in City A's hands. Since we've been together for so many years, can't you ask him for a favor? See if he can help us secure the deal." Willow let out a sharp, bitter laugh. "Ask him for help? He's already married to Anna." Makoto dismissed her concern. "So what? You were together for 7 years, he's not heartless. Even if you're not together anymore, he'll still have some lingering feelings, won't he? Think about it. Your father is furious after what happened today. If you can land this deal, he'll calm down and stop blaming you. Isn't that the best solution?" For a moment, Willow hesitated. His words made sense, but she couldn't bring herself to agree immediately. "I'll think about it." After hanging up, she forced herself to stand and staggered toward the bathroom, splashing cold water on her face. Her mind cleared slightly. A few minutes later, Sophia knocked on the door and entered. "Willow, we need to talk about that project." She settled onto the sofa, her gaze heavy as she stared out the window. Her thoughts were a tangled mess. This project was a gold mine. Power players from City A, Shanghai, Hong Kong, and Macau were all competing for a piece of it. The reason the 4 families had united was to increase their chances of securing it, and based on the intelligence they had gathered, the person most likely to oversee the project was Laura Wang, George's aunt. If she could use him to establish a connection, it would give them a massive advantage. Willow sat in silence for a long time. Finally, she made up her mind, not just for the deal, but for herself. She wanted another chance. One last meeting with George. Chapter 20. The day after my wedding. After obtaining our marriage certificate, I went straight to Wang Corporation's headquarters to assume my new role as vice president. To help me get up to speed, my father had assigned several senior assistants and secretaries to assist me, people he had personally mentored. I spent the entire day buried in reports, reviewing financial statements and operational summaries until I finally got a grasp of the company's internal structure. By the time I looked up from my desk, I realized it was already past 8 p.m. The entire building was dark, except for my office. Rubbing my tired eyes, I grabbed my coat and made my way to the underground parking lot. To my surprise, Anna was waiting for me by the car. "Why is she here?" I frowned slightly and walked over. "Aren't you busy today?" I asked. Anna smiled, a hint of helplessness in her expression. "Today is our 2nd day of marriage. Technically, I should still be on my wedding leave." Hearing that, I suddenly recalled the look she had given me that morning when I said I was heading straight to work after leaving the civil affairs office. So that's what that expression meant. Feeling slightly guilty, I lowered my head and offered a half-hearted explanation. It's my first time getting married. I didn't think about things like this. But honeymoon leave and wedding celebrations, shouldn't those be for normal couples? We're just a business alliance. I didn't think it was necessary. For a brief moment, a flicker of disappointment crossed Anna's eyes, but she quickly composed herself, opening the car door and gesturing for me to get in. If you're busy, then we don't have to celebrate. But since we are married, would the great Mr. Wang at least join his wife for dinner? Her tone carried a playful hint of sarcasm. I couldn't help but smile. Without hesitation, I got into the car. Dinner was set at a well-known fine dining restaurant. By the time we arrived, it was peak hours, and since we hadn't booked a private room, we ended up seated at a quiet corner table by the window. Anna handed me the menu and pointed out a few of the restaurant's signature dishes. After considering her suggestions, I ordered a few dishes I liked and passed the menu back to her, but she didn't order anything. From what I recalled from our previous meals together, our tastes were quite different. Seeing her reluctance, I hesitated and gently nudged her. Are you sure? My taste might be a bit unusual, you might not like it. Anna smiled, her gaze warm and unwavering. Since we're married, we'll be sharing meals every day. I should try to get used to what you like. I raised an eyebrow. We're married, not signing our lives away. We can still order whatever we want. You don't have to force yourself, just tell me what you'd prefer, and we can compromise. Anna blinked, momentarily stunned by my words. Then, a soft chuckle escaped her lips, her voice carrying a light, almost imperceptible joy. So we can negotiate anything. I nodded casually. Of course. Her smile deepened. Then can we negotiate not canceling our honeymoon? That caught me off guard. Of all the things she could have asked for, I hadn't expected that. You really want to go on a honeymoon? I asked. Anna looked at me, her expression gentle yet firm. We've been preparing for this wedding for so long. I'd like to take a proper break. Besides, our families are expecting us to get closer quickly, and a honeymoon is a great opportunity for that. What do you think? She sounded so sincere that the excuses I had prepared got stuck in my throat. To be fair, Anna had been nothing but considerate as a wife. A honeymoon didn't matter much to me either way, and I didn't see the need to reject her over something so trivial. All right, I agreed. Anna's face lit up with a bright smile. Then once you finish this busy period, we'll plan for it. Chapter 21. Willow waited all day downstairs at Wang Corporation before she finally saw George. Following George to the restaurant, she found a seat for herself, hoping for a chance to meet him alone. However, the entire evening, he never once left his seat. The sight of him laughing and chatting with Anna, even serving food to each other, stabbed deeply into her heart. For 2 hours, the dishes had been on the table, yet she hadn't touched a single bite. Her gaze remained fixed on George's delighted expression. Finally, when George stood up to go to the restroom, Willow hurriedly followed him and stopped him in the hallway. She said, "George, why did you agree to marry Anna?" Hearing that familiar voice, I turned around. A hint of surprise flashing in my eyes, I replied. If I remember correctly, we already broke up, didn't we? Whether I get married or not, what does it have to do with you? My indifferent tone made Willow feel belittled, and a surge of anger welled up in her chest. Biting her lip, she said, "But the marriage between the Wang and Su families was decided over a month ago. Back then, we hadn't even broken up yet. You had already found someone else." I frowned and glanced at her, my tone still indifferent. I said, "Yes. I had already planned to return to City A and get married a month ago. But why are you so angry? You had been plotting for 7 years to break up with me on Makoto's 28th birthday. I simply planned my next step a month in advance. What's wrong with that?" My words left Willow speechless. She clenched her fists, forcefully swallowing the bitterness and regret in her chest. Still trying to defend herself, Willow said, "It's not what you think between him and me. I know he never liked me. It's just that, after knowing him for so many years and having made that promise, he became an obsession in my heart. But I really wanted to be with you. On my way to City A, I was ready to marry you. I even planned to propose. I had already prepared a wedding ring. George, can't you believe me just this once?" Seeing her say these words with such a deeply affectionate expression, I only found it laughable. I said, "You only thought of me after he completely rejected you, didn't you? Too bad, I'm already married. Willow, you should go find Makoto. Who knows, maybe he'll say yes this time." There was unconcealed mockery in my tone, making Willow feel even more miserable. She took a step forward, trying to grab my hand, but I avoided her. Willow said, "He never liked me. I was just too foolish to see him clearly. It wasn't until that birthday banquet that I finally understood. I had already gotten used to having you by my side for the past 7 years. I truly wanted to marry you. Before, I had thought that although she was someone who straddled two boats, at least there was some sincerity in her feelings. But after hearing her words now, I only felt disgusted." George said, "You resent him for not accepting you, for treating you as a backup plan. Do you think that after waiting for over a decade, Your unwavering love is so noble and touching that even you're moved by it. But while you hate him, have you ever thought about how, at your core, you're no different from Makoto? He kept you hanging, unwilling to give you an answer, and you couldn't accept it, so you kept me hanging in return. The two of you are just the same. So why are you putting on this act of being blinded by love and regretting it all now? In an instant, all the color drained from Willow's face, leaving it deathly pale. I didn't care about her feelings at this moment, nor did I want to continue entangling with her. Without sparing her another glance, I turned and walked back to the hall. Chapter 22. As we brushed past each other, Willow suddenly grabbed my arm. My patience had already worn thin, and I immediately shook her off. In that brief moment of struggle, the old, poorly maintained chandelier above us let out a creaking sound before crashing down, falling straight toward my head. Just as the danger struck, Willow instinctively pushed me aside. With a loud bang, the heavy iron fixture, weighing dozens of pounds, smashed onto her shoulder, sending blood splattering in all directions. Thrown several meters away, I landed right beside Anna, who had just arrived. I couldn't help but turn back, and my eyes immediately locked onto Willow. Lying in a pool of blood, she curled up in agony, clutching her bleeding right shoulder tightly with her left hand. Her face flushed red from the excruciating pain. The sound of the impact drew the attention of the restaurant staff, who rushed over to check on her injuries. Anna furrowed her brows and asked if I was hurt. After confirming that I was completely fine, she let out a relieved sigh and supported me as we left the scene. Still shaken, I didn't think much about it and simply walked away with her. Watching the two of us leave hand in hand, Willow bit her lip hard, refusing to make a sound, yet unable to hold back the choked sobs rising in her throat. She shut her eyes in despair, and memories flooded her mind, all of them about George. When her stomach problems flared up, George stayed by her side without leaving, consulting multiple doctors and constantly checking in on her condition. When she bumped into a wall and bruised her arm, George immediately boiled some eggs to gently massage the injury, his gaze filled with concern. On sleepless nights, George would fight off his own exhaustion to keep her company, playing soft music and even preparing soothing herbal soups to help her sleep. In the past, as long as it had to do with her, he cared about everything. Yet now, even after she got injured saving him, he showed no reaction at all and left so easily with someone else. It was at this moment that Willow finally accepted the truth. The George standing before her now was no longer the George she once knew. He no longer saw her as his only one, and he no longer loved her. By the time I got home, my emotions had finally settled. I lay on the sofa, sipping the hot tea that had been brought over, still a little shaken as I recalled what had just happened. I was about to complain to Anna when I turned my head and saw her crouching down beside me, holding a first aid kit. I glanced over my body from top to bottom but didn't see any injuries. Her actions left me even more confused. I frowned and asked, "I'm not hurt. Why did you bring the medical kit?" Anna didn't answer. Instead, she gently pointed at my ankle. Following her gaze, I finally noticed a small scrape on the back of my heel where a shard of glass had cut through the skin. She dipped a cotton swab in alcohol and, in an exceptionally gentle tone, said, "This might sting a little. A wound this small was nothing to me. I wouldn't even have given it a second thought under normal circumstances." Seeing how much she cared, I suddenly felt a little embarrassed. I said, "It's just a minor scratch. It'll be fine even if I don't treat it. You don't have to worry so much." Despite my words, the moment the alcohol touched the wound, I inhaled sharply from the sting. After disinfecting it, Anna carefully placed a band-aid over the cut and reminded me with concern, "I'll have someone send over some waterproof covers later. When you take a shower, make sure to keep it dry, and if you need to go out, just wear slippers." Having grown up away from home, I had lived independently with my aunt since childhood. After returning to the country, I spent 4 years in college and 6 years in a relationship, always alone in a foreign city. This was the first time someone made such a fuss over a tiny injury on my body. Amid my surprise, I wanted to lighten the mood, so I cracked a joke. "There's no need to go through all that trouble. Who knows? By the time your supplies arrive, the wound might already be healed." Chapter 23. Anna lifted her gaze and looked at me intently, her expression more serious than I had ever seen before. She said, "Any wound hurts. I don't want your body to feel uncomfortable after being hurt by that scumbag woman, so I might be a bit naggy, but being careful never hurts. So please just listen to me this once, George." I wasn't sure whether it was her genuinely sincere tone or the concern reflected in her eyes, but my heartstrings were suddenly plucked. Trembling uncontrollably, not daring to meet her eyes, I lowered my head and nodded slightly. After Anna left with the first aid kit, I received a phone call from Sophia. "George, are you really that heartless? Willow got seriously injured saving you. Are you not going to see her at all?" Hearing this unprovoked accusation, I didn't feel like letting her dump all this blame on me. I let out a cold laugh. I said, "If she hadn't been clinging to me and refusing to let go, the The chandelier wouldn't have even had a chance to fall on me in the first place. She brought this upon herself. How is that my fault? Sophia responded. No matter how it happened, she still shoved you out of the way at a critical moment. Do you really feel no sympathy for her at all? I almost had to admire her shameless ability to twist the facts. Having no desire to continue this pointless conversation, I glanced at the bandage on my leg and lied straight away. I said, I'd like to visit her, but I hurt my leg too. I can't even leave the house right now. The call went silent for over 10 seconds. Then Sophia cleared her throat and offered a new proposition. She said, fine, if you can't come, so be it. But you still owe her a favor, and it needs repaying. How about this? I heard that a month from now, there's going to be a launch party for the Mars project. Have your secretary send us a few invitations, and we'll consider it settled. So that was her real motive. I couldn't help letting out a sneer and agreed casually. After hanging up, I sent my aunt a few messages asking about the specifics of that project, then asked her to bring over some invitations for me the next day. Over the following days, Anna accompanied me wherever I went. At first, I would urge her to focus on her own business, but time and again, she used the excuse of being on honeymoon leave, effectively blocking my objections. Gradually, I realized that no matter what problems arose at work, Anna always managed to provide timely suggestions, and I even got used to having her around. Spending so much time together, we quickly became close. When I had to work late into the night, Anna would sit beside me, laptop in hand, quietly dealing with her own tasks. Whether it was stormy, rainy, or snowy, she would always show up right on time to pick me up for work or take me home. If she had something else to do, she would immediately let me know where she was going and when she would be back, always very clear about it. Whenever we had free time, she liked taking me out to explore, letting me see all sorts of interesting places and little curiosities. Half a month later, it was time for the spring festival. The Wang and Su families planned to get together for a big family gathering and to stay up for the new year. More than a dozen of us sat together, chatting away. Inevitably, the conversations kept circling back to me and Anna. My mother beamed at us, deeply moved. She said, George has the same stubborn streak as his aunt. After he graduated, I told him to come back to City A, but he refused, insisting on working out there on his own. I really couldn't do anything with him. Anna, if there's anything he doesn't do well, I hope you can bear with him. Hearing her talk about me like that in front of everyone, I felt a bit unhappy and was about to defend myself. Just then, Anna placed the orange she had peeled into my hand and, smiling, said, Mom, you're exaggerating. George isn't stubborn at all. I think he's very independent and has his own ideas. In the future, working alongside Auntie, he'll definitely be able to take on the heavy responsibilities of the Wang family. As for me, I need to learn more from him so I don't become a burden. After she finished speaking, the Su family chimed in with their praise, making my mom beam until her face could hardly contain her smile. She took my hand, her voice full of delight. She said, as long as you two get along, we, as your elders, will be happy. But if you can give us a grandchild sooner rather than later, we'd be even happier. Chapter 24. My mom's single statement caught me completely off guard. The other elders joined in with good-natured teasing, making me feel extremely awkward. After all, this sort of matter requires Anna's agreement, too. Eventually, the two of us found an excuse to slip out to the garden. The cold winter wind chilled my face until it slowly returned to normal, but because of that somewhat sensitive topic just now, I was still a little ill at ease, my eyes roaming everywhere, anywhere but at the person beside me. Seeing how I pretended nothing was wrong, Anna's lips curved into a faint smile, and she changed the subject on her own. She said, tomorrow's banquet, are you going as well? I replied, yeah, I'm going. I was the one who gave Willow her invitation, so I want to keep an eye on her and see what exactly she's up to. She asked, then do you have any extra invitations? Could you give me one? Hearing that, I looked at her in surprise. I said, this project isn't bad, but aren't you and Big Sis busy with the Yuan Chuan work right now? You want to check out the scene at such a crucial time? Anna knew I was just joking, so she blinked quickly and answered, of course it's not because I'm interested in that project. It's more that during the holidays, there's not much else going on. I just wanted to go with you to see what it's like. Realizing what she meant, I nodded. Recalling that I had only one invitation left, I pulled her along downstairs to find my aunt. The Mars project banquet was held at the largest hotel in City A. At 7 in the evening, the project's lead organizer stepped onto the stage and formally declared the start of the banquet. Because of a traffic jam, the Wang family's car arrived half an hour late. As soon as the door opened, Laura was surrounded by eager attendees waiting at the entrance. Not wanting to wade into those waters, I took Anna by the hand and slipped around them into the venue. Since we hadn't come for the project itself, we strolled through the hall at a leisurely pace, sampling the food and wine, leaning against the second-floor railing with a glass of champagne in hand. Willow spotted George whispering closely with Anna down below. Over the past month, she had done a lot of thinking. She knew George had given up on her. He was a member of the Wang family and was married to Anna. Offending either of those families was beyond her capacity. So she'd been urging herself to let the past go and accept reality. Yet all that mental preparation couldn't stop her anger from flaring the moment she saw them appear before her. Acting so intimate, her face darkened immediately. Makoto, following her gaze, spotted George too. His eyes lit up, and he pulled Maria along as he headed downstairs. Seeing that, Sophia also dragged Willow to follow them. The four of them made their way through the crowd and approached me. Only Maria knew Anna, so she was the first to speak. She said, "Third miss, it's been a while. I heard you got married not long ago, congratulations." Although Anna wasn't fond of Maria and Makoto, she maintained her composure in this setting. Nodding slightly in greeting, she replied, "Thank you." As soon as that word fell, the atmosphere grew awkward again. Maria, finding it difficult to continue, shot Makoto a look. Quickly taking the hint, Makoto stepped forward and waved to me. Makoto said, "George, do you remember me? We met a little over 2 months ago." Chapter 25. Facing his enthusiastic attitude, I nodded blankly and said, "Ito-san, long time no see." Hearing my voice, Willow finally looked up, catching sight of my indifferent gaze. Forcing a faint smile, her voice hoarse, she said, "George, it's been a while. I heard you got hurt that day. Are you feeling better now?" I replied, "Thanks to you, I've recovered quite well." My deliberately meaningful tone made Willow's heart skip a beat, and guilt flickered across her face. She instinctively wanted to explain herself, but before she could speak, Anna cut her off. Anna said, "George and I are here with my aunt for the banquet. I never thought I'd run into you. Maria, with the New Year season and all, you came such a long way to City A. Are you here for something in particular?" Hearing this, Sophia quickly nudged Maria, signaling her to seize the chance. Maria said, "Our families are somewhat interested in the Mars project, so we thought we'd come take a look. I heard George's aunt is the person in charge of the project." Anna, if it's not too much trouble, do you think you could introduce us, for old time's sake? Anna didn't answer immediately. Instead, she looked up at me, as if seeking my opinion. After exchanging glances, I calmly replied, "Anna and I would like to help, but as you can see, my aunt is too busy to spare a moment. It's probably not a good time." All three of them exchanged looks. Realizing we were turning them down, they didn't press the issue any further. After a few more pleasantries, they excused themselves. Only Willow remained there, gazing at me with words on the tip of her tongue she couldn't bring herself to say. Not wanting to deal with her, I took Anna's hand and walked away. She seemed to have lost her senses and followed behind us like a shadow. From the main hall to the second floor and finally to the garden, she trailed after us. Seeing no one else around, Anna stopped in her tracks, turned, and stared coldly at Willow as she asked, "Ms. Liu, you've been following us, do you have something to say?" Willow finally realized how inappropriate her behavior was and quickly apologized. "I'm sorry, I've had too much to drink and got a bit confused. Couldn't find my way." Hearing this flimsy excuse, Anna let out a few soft laughs, but her tone was icy. She said, "It's one thing to be momentarily confused, but don't stay confused forever. George is kind-hearted, but I have nothing to do with the Liu family, so there's no old friendship to speak of." The warning implicit in those words made Willow's heart sink to rock bottom. She knew that with the Su family's influence, all it would take was a word from Anna, and the Liu family in Shanghai might vanish at any moment. Willow dared not risk her entire family by talking back. She gritted her teeth, swallowed her anger, and turned to head back inside. She had barely made it through the door when she heard a commotion coming from within, and Sophia's apologetic voice stood out clearly among the noise. Sophia said, "Chairwoman Wang, your nephew is also an acquaintance of ours. Could you maybe do us a favor and have a drink with us? Won't you at least consider that?" Though Willow didn't know exactly what had happened, hearing that one line was enough to tell her something had gone wrong, so she hurried inside. Just as she pushed her way through the crowd to the center of the hall, she saw Laura on the phone summoning security. In an instant, the entire banquet hall fell silent. All around, the other guests looked on at the four ashen-faced people with undisguised schadenfreude. Laura, who'd been offended, wore an icy expression, showing them no mercy. Right there in front of everyone, she announced in a loud voice, "Tonight is the launch banquet for the Mars project, not some backdoor shortcut. Since all of you received an invitation, please pay attention to the upcoming presentation. Don't be like these people, trying sneaky tactics. Otherwise, if you're thrown out of the banquet, don't say I, Laura, didn't show you any courtesy." Chapter 26. When over a dozen security guards escorted the four people away, I happened to be returning with Anna. We stood at the entrance, watching them go for a while. Then we exchanged a glance, each seeing a smile in the other's eyes. From the hall came the voice of the MC, signaling that the project presentation was about to begin. With the troublemakers gone, I had no desire to stay any longer, so I pulled Anna's hand and said we should head home. Anna nodded. After sending a quick message to my aunt, she left with me. These days, the two of us had been staying at the old family home. The servants were off for the holiday. Southwest, the place felt empty. We curled up on the couch and watched a movie. Around midnight, I suddenly had a craving for tangyuan, glutinous rice dumplings, a sweet Chinese dessert usually eaten during festivals, but it was late on a holiday, and the nearby shops had stopped offering delivery. Seeing the words, "unable to deliver," on my phone, I let out a deep sigh. Noticing my disappointed expression, Anna smiled gently, stood up, and headed into the kitchen. She rummaged around in a cabinet and pulled out a bag of flour. Seeing this, I leaned over curiously, excitement lighting up my eyes. I asked, "You know how to make tangyuan?" From the way I was fiddling with the flour, Anna guessed I wanted to try making them too. She took down 2 aprons and put one on me. She said, "I don't know how yet, but we can look up a tutorial. It should be pretty simple, right?" She made sense, so I immediately opened my phone. Following the instructions for over an hour, we finally managed to roll out tangyuan of all shapes and sizes, some big, some small, each one looking rather uneven. When the water started boiling, I wanted to drop in the dumplings, but Anna, afraid I might burn myself, quickly took the plate from me and told me to fetch 2 bowls. Since we didn't have liaozao, a type of sweet fermented rice often used for flavoring, she used brown sugar for flavoring instead. By the time the 2 bowls of tangyuan were ready, it was already past midnight. Scooping up the largest dumpling in my bowl with a spoon, I dangled it in front of her with a smug grin. "Mine's the biggest. Looks like I'm in for some good luck this year." Anna smiled at me and picked up a small handheld fan to cool off my tangyuan. I took a bite. My smug expression froze for a few seconds before returning to normal. Seeing my change in expression, Anna asked with a laugh, "Does it taste bad?" My eyes darted around, and I shook my head. Then I held my spoon out to her with a playful look. I said, "It's really good. Want to try?" Anna only needed a glance to see that this plum-sized dumpling was undercooked. But without a moment's hesitation, she lowered her head and ate the remaining half. Realizing she had taken the bait, I could barely hold back my triumphant grin. I quickly raised my hand to cover my face. I laughed. "Tasty, huh?" My voice was dripping with schadenfreude, but Anna's face suddenly lit up with what looked like genuine admiration. She gave me a thumbs up. She said, "It's good, sweet and chewy, just how I like it." Her eyes were bright as she spoke, making it hard to tell whether she was serious or not, but I trusted my own taste buds. I put down my spoon, grabbed her chin gently, and tried to look into her mouth. Anna swallowed the dumpling in one go. By the time I managed to pry her mouth open, there was nothing left to see. Exasperated, I said, "It was clearly undercooked. How could you be serious?" She replied, "Of course I wasn't." Realizing that I was the one who got tricked, I refused to accept defeat and immediately pounced on her, laughing. Anna tried to dodge, but I wouldn't let her get away. Amid our playful tussle, we tumbled off the couch and landed together on the carpet, face against face. Nose against nose, the air between us suddenly grew charged with tension, so close that we were practically breathing the same air. I could even feel her pounding heartbeat against my hand. My mind told me I should let go, yet my body refused to move away. As time passed, our breathing grew quicker, and the warmth of our touching skin surged even higher. In my eyes, Anna could see her own reflection. She couldn't help raising a hand to cover my eyes, then let it fall and closed her own instead. Sometimes, saying nothing is an answer in itself. I knew that well. Leaning down, I brought my lips close to her ear and asked softly, "Is this okay?" Hearing my gentle question, Anna felt as though her heart had stopped. She knew exactly what I meant. She felt as if she were about to burst into flames. She gave a slight nod. In the next instant, the world spun. I held her tightly in my arms. Our lips met, and our breaths finally melded into one, and the night was still young.